This morning at our weekly conference meeting, we discussed the upcoming schedule, given the Democrats' endless efforts to politicize the Epstein controversy and the whole investigation.
The positions they have been forced to take, huh? Man, oh man, oh man. I'll bury the lead a little bit. I guess I'll bury it by 34 seconds. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, shut down Congress for the rest of summer to avoid an Epstein vote. Because enough Democrats and enough dissident Republicans were gunning to vote a bill demanding the release of the Epstein files, Mike Johnson has said, well, we're actually just going to declare recess for the remainder of summer, so that he admits it. You don't even have to engage in the speculation, right? He just flat out says it.
I want to be clear about this. There's a reason behind what we are doing here. We have a responsibility, actually a dual responsibility here, okay? I've been on record very clearly that I believe in maximum transparency. I think every single House Republican will say the same thing. In fact, they've told me that publicly and privately. They talk about this. We want maximum transparency. We also understand the other part of that duty is that we have to protect innocent victims, okay?
So this is the line they've come up with, right? It's that actually, the reason they can't release the Epstein files is because the Epstein files are full of course, pornography. Now, obviously, you could just censor that. You could find ways to release the information where you're releasing like description or like relevant criminal information without actually showing any explicit media. I think that's pretty reasonable. I think it's easy enough to do. Certainly doing the censoring would be grim work, but you've already gone through the files, right? Like that's the job of the Justice Department. I cannot overstate how so it's easy to say well, they're being flippant, right? Like they know that they're in the Epstein files. They know for a fact that they're implicated. There is a desperate cover-up going on right now. See, the Wall Street Journal, just about a few hours ago, reported exclusively that the Justice Department informed Trump back in May that he is in the Epstein files, which confirms the existence of the Epstein files. That's it. The Wall Street Journal reports that Pam Bondi essentially sat him down and said, I'm sorry, sir, but your ass is in here. Bondi also told the president at the meeting that the DOJ decided to not release any more Jeffrey Epstein documents because of the presence of pornography and the need to protect victims. They literally had a sit down where she said, you're in them, and also coincidentally, I have now decided that I don't want to release them, and here's the reason we're going to give. It's shockingly overt. But this is an exclusive, and this was broken just this morning, you know? And I want to talk about this in a separate bit because it's so funny. I don't want to jump it all in together. But the Wall Street Journal, this is the second major leak the Wall Street Journal has put out. Earlier, they released that birthday letter that Trump sent to Epstein, where he alludes at a shared secret that they both care about very much. J.D. Vance visited the Murdochs before that info was dropped. The vice president of the United States of America went over to the head honcho in charge of the Wall Street Journal to, and I'm just going to speculate here, but I know I'm correct, personally threaten him and tell him to not release the information. Yeah, or beg. Apparently it didn't take. I mean, it clearly didn't take, because not only did the Wall Street Journal release that birthday letter that Trump sent to Epstein, now they're releasing this. So this is the context in which Mike Johnson is shutting down the House. In fact, it's very, very possible that Mike Johnson is shutting down the House because he's aware of the fact that the Wall Street Journal is going to release this information soon. An explicit confirmation that Trump is both in the Epstein files and knows that he's in the Epstein files. So let's continue.
We have to do both things at the same time. What do we mean by that? Look, involved in the Epstein evil, okay, which is what it was. Just call it what it was. There are innocent victims of those unspeakable sex crimes, okay?
Remember, this is explicitly the narrative that Pam Bondi came up with to protect Trump while telling him he's in the files. By the way, have you heard that Epstein was at Trump's wedding? Yes. Yeah. Speaking of leaks, yes, I did see the photos of Epstein at Donald Trump's wedding. Yes, actually, I did see that. And we'll go over that in a second. A lot of stuff is coming out. Oh, my God. What's the benefit of Capitol undermining Trump? I don't think Murdoch has ever liked Trump, really. Murdoch is a classic corporatist. He is in addition to being unfathomably evil, he is a respectable businessman who has built an evil empire on top of playing the game that the likes of Bush and Cheney played, right? You know, you keep things more or less in line, you keep things more or less stable, you promote Western hegemony, and Murdoch profits and sows disinformation the entire time. Murdoch doesn't have as much of a direct hand in his operations anymore. In fact, it's possible that he doesn't have enough of a direct hand to have even, like, intervened in the Wall Street Journal's posts. Like, it's possible he's taken enough of a back seat that he doesn't even have the inroads within his own affiliate companies to put a stop to it. But at the same time, I also think it's not exactly subtext that Murdoch doesn't like Trump. Murdoch was, after all, one of the guiding figures in pushing Fox News away from Trump after January 6th.
Some of them were minors. Some of them were not. When the Epstein records are turned
I thought WAPO was Bezos. Wall Street Journal.
Over to the public, which we must do as quickly as possible, we have to also be very judicious and careful about protecting the innocent. I think everybody in the country should understand the necessity of that. It is the standard. I used to be a litigator. It's the standard in the court of law and the courts. It's the standard in law enforcement. Anyone who's served in law enforcement understands the necessity of that. It is the standard with government agencies. We protect the innocent. So we cannot be careless. In an open release like that, you have to be very careful. The president himself has said that he wants maximum transparency and all credible evidence to be turned over to the American public so that everyone...
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Mike Johnson looks like an elf. That is true. Bro's Rizless? No, he's not. Mike Johnson has done a phenomenal job. The idiot Trump loyalists in Congress pushed for Matt Gaetz, but Matt Gaetz would have not done this good of a job at wrangling Republican Congress. Matt Gaetz would not have gotten the big, beautiful bill through. Guaranteed he would not have. Mike Johnson's actually done a shockingly good job as House Leader. He is very smart and very evil. It's unfortunate that he's on their side.
One can make their own decisions. We're owed that. And we want any individual who's been involved in any way in the Epstein evils to be brought to justice as quickly as possible. And the law should be brought down upon their head. We're unequivocal about that, okay? We have to make sure that the credible evidence is revealed, and we're doing that. The president has made...
That being said, normally Mike Johnson has this kind of like condescending, sneering tone when he does something that he knows is evil. He looks, to me, here a little bit, I might be reading into it too much, he looks a little bit panicked. Maybe not panicked, but that tone isn't here. He does seem, shaken. A shaken is what I would go with. My guess is that he was explicitly instructed by the president, or Pam Bondi, doesn't really matter, to shut down the House over this. Obviously, like in a real country, even that, or the possibility that that might have happened would be a scandal in itself. But like the amount of information that is being dropped right now about the Trump-Epstein relationship is so severe, and it implicates them so much. CNN is dropping exclusives. Multiple exclusives from the Wall Street Journal. Oh, let's not forget, by the way, because this information is literally coming out like rapid fire right now. A top DOJ official intends to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell because the House, and this was before Mike Johnson shut down the House, because they want to know what she knows. The House was pushing to have her subpoenaed so she could provide testimony to Congress. And before Mike Johnson shut down the House, the DOJ sent an official over to try to find out, or planned to send an official over to try to find out what she would say. Which really, so you argue you don't release the Epstein files because of the CP within. Okay, bullshit excuse, but okay. What is Ghislaine Maxwell going to do? Speak child material? Express it, like verbally? Is she going to weave the images in the air? Why don't you want her to testify? The House just subpoenaed her? Oh my God, 45 minutes ago. Well, but it doesn't matter. They're shutting down the House. The House is shut down for the rest of the summer. So what, they're going to backlog this a few months? The DOJ is going to work her over. So right before the shutdown happened, the oversight committee was like, no, hold on, and like rubber stamped it, like right on the way out. The House will be back in session in September. Yeah, but by September, the DOJ will have already like worked Maxwell over, you know? And I still don't think Maxwell would even testify. Because if she rats out on Donald Trump, the implication then is that everyone else compromised by Epstein could be ratted out as well. They would have her killed. I like legitimately, my guess is that if she was going to testify, she would be trading a lessened sentence for exonerating testimony about Trump. Like Ghislaine Maxwell would be like, yeah, Trump actually hated Epstein, like, and Epstein knew it. Epstein was like a really clingy, but like Trump basically was just like, nah, dude, I respect women, especially little girls, and like tossed his hand away, and like, yeah, like they never did anything basically. If Maxwell agrees to testify before Congress and not take the fifth, and that remains a big if, she would testify truthfully as she has always said she would, and she will with Mr. Blanche. I think she would only go up there if it was to testify in favor of Trump. That is my guess.
A request to the courts and the grand jury testimony and the files there, for example. And the court should turn that over. And that will be a continuing and ongoing quest. Now, what we refuse to do is participate in another one of the Democrats' political games. This is a
This has turned into such a fiasco for them. Jesus Christ, man.
Serious matter. We are not going to let them use this as a political battering ram. The Rules Committee became the ground for them to do that. We're not going to allow them to engage in that charade anymore. Why do I call it a charade? Because the Democrats are trying to play gotcha politics right now when, as the leader just pointed out, they don't have any moral high ground on this at all. They controlled the Department of Justice for the last 4 years. Has anyone forgotten? They had all these files the entire time. They sat on everything.
That's a really good defense, Mike Johnson. Point out that the reason you and them are the same is because neither of you want to release the Epstein files. I'm sure Trump supporters really want to hear that. Say essentially, well, we're not going to release the Epstein files because they wouldn't release the Epstein files. That's a very anti-deep state move right there.
Related for 4 long years while President Biden was in office. You could draw your own conclusions as to why. But we've been intellectually consistent the entire time. And I want to say this about my colleagues Ro Khanna and Jim McGovern and Hakeem Jeffries and so many others. They've tweeted about Epstein countless times in the last 2 weeks, but go back and look at their social media accounts, we have, and their public comments. They had exactly 0 posts on the subject for the last 4 years of the Biden administration.
Yeah, I guess the argument they're going with genuinely is like, well, why would you expect things to change under Trump? Like, yeah, we know that Trump and his colleagues like campaigned on you know, destroying the deep state and unearthing this information, that a bunch of people in his cabinet were like explicitly running on that. But didn't expect things to change, did you? It's like the Biden government.
Interesting, isn't it? We all understand that the America First agenda and the American people are best served by putting an end to the Democrats' sideshows. And that's what we're doing by not allowing the Rules Committee to continue with that nonsense this week.
Oh, it's so cool, by the way, how Republican House Majority leaders have like no problem at all just shit talking the other side, and Democratic House Majority leaders, you know, Pelosi, have like continued to banty about the bipartisan bullshit. In this case, I don't think it's really working to their favor, though. This looks so bad for everyone involved. Seriously. Hey, really quick, can somebody get me into this Wall Street Journal article? The one where the Justice Department told Trump that his name is in the Epstein files. Johnson was asked by a journalist about putting the House on recess. Oh, please.
I mean, obviously we've seen the conservatives shut down the House floor routinely. You saw that you had to pull the rule because of fear of the Epstein votes.
No, we don't have any fear. No, hold on. No, Reese, no. There's no fear here. No, there's no fear. There's no fear. We're not going to allow the Democrats to use this as a political cudgel. Remember, they had 4 years. Hold on. The Biden administration held the Epstein files for 4 years. Not a single one of these Democrats or anyone in Congress made any peep about that at all. They could have brought it.
Nobody in Congress? Nobody in Congress made a stink about the Epstein files throughout the entirety of Biden's administration? Is that so?
Discharge petition at any point in the last 4 years. They chose not to. They waited until President Trump was elected. I think that's very suspect. And I will not allow the House to be drug into political gamesmanship. Not going to do it.
Mike Johnson is basically the best guy that they can get on this because he's the only one who's smart enough to like weave the rhetorical net, and I still don't think he's able to do a very good job, because the most convincing argument he can make is still ultimately give up the case, stop talking about it, it's not a big deal, we're just like the Biden administration, in that we have no intention of releasing it, you know? Second clip from the same answering. Why not just put it into one big clip? We're clip farming, literally.
The House to be drug into political gamesmanship.
Promises that Republicans made to voters over Jeffrey Epstein. Why not more of a sense of urgency? Why not just hold a vote today?
There's no point in having a vote today, because the administration is already doing everything within their power to release them. They've gone to the grand jury. They've requested the courts to unseal the documents.
The grand jury refused to unseal the documents, by the way, which isn't surprising, because that was a pretty extraordinary move. The reason the Justice Department did that was because it was a nothing burger. The grand jury records would not have contained any interesting information. They certainly wouldn't have implicated Trump. They weren't really relevant to the investigation. She just wanted to request them to make it seem like she was doing something,
so that they can be released. The president himself has said all credible evidence should be put out to the American people while protecting the innocent. That's where we stand as well. There's no point in passing a resolution to urge the administration to do something that they are already doing. And so that's why we're going to let that process play out. This is not out of fear in any way. What we're trying to do is maximize transparency. I
wish one of the reporters would ask, do you intend on shutting down Congress every time the representatives intend on releasing the Epstein files? Is this going to be like ongoing, like every single congressional session gets ended like 1 week in because people are still interested in finding out whether or not the president is in the Epstein files? Oh, have you seen the recent Wall Street Journal report indicating that he is in fact in the Epstein files, confirming both the existence of the files and of his vulnerability to their release? They never ask any real questions, of course, because then they wouldn't get let back into the Capitol building.
And stand for the truth. Wait, let me say this, very important. We want every single person who is involved in any way in the Epstein evils to be brought to swift justice. We want the full weight of the law
I'm sure.
to fall upon their head. And I will do everything within my power to make sure that is possible. That process is underway right now, and we'll see.
Notice how desperate all these reporters are to get in a question, and how much Mike Johnson wants to avoid it, by the way. Like, he's being hounded here. They're like talking over him, which is pretty uncommon, you know? He does not want to be here. He's filibustering? Yes. Someone should go to a Republican into a no confidence vote in the speaker? Not going to happen. They told the president at the meeting that the files contained what unofficials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump. Ooh, really? Yeah? The Epstein file? Pam Bondi sat down and told him this? Unverified hearsay. It's got to be bad if they're referring to it that way, by the way. Like, if his name was only mentioned in a rote procedural way, they wouldn't call it unverified hearsay. They would call it in a rote procedural way. Oh, uninteresting. Unverified hearsay. Incredible. Oh, he's described as doing some disgusting stuff in these documents. One of the officials familiar with the documents said they contained hundreds of other names. Oh, don't worry, Mr. Trump. You're among hundreds of other people, children. They also told Trump that senior Justice Department officials didn't plan to release any more documents related to the investigation of the convicted sex offender because the material contained CP and victims' personal information, the official said. Trump said at the meeting he would defer to the Justice Department's decision to not release any further files. Kind of confirming my belief that Trump has no idea what's going on and is just being guided by the people in his cabinet. You know? Like, they came up with the idea. He has no idea. They had to, like, minimize it before talking to him about it, because they're not going to come to him for strategy. Need a patriot with a simulated name to leak this? Dog, we already have a leak. Who the f do you think gave this to the goddamn Wall Street Journal? Like, that's huge. This was a meeting between the president and the DOJ over his being named in these files. Like, there could not have been that many people present at this meeting. I would be surprised if there were more than a dozen people there. Him, a few staffers, Pam Bondi, a couple DOJ officials. A dozen seems high. There are often a surprising number of people at these meetings. Not to be a dummy, why make a fuss now if we've known he was a known associate with Epstein for years? They made a fuss of it. Donald Trump's cabinet made a fuss about releasing the Epstein files when they got to power, and now they're very publicly, very obviously, very shamefully not doing so because they're like, wait, hold on, turns out he's in there, obviously. Why let an enemy's mistake go untaken advantage of, you know? Yeah, we know he's in the Epstein files. There are lots of retards who think it's been misinformation from day one, and it's very evident that Trump's desperate attempts to get people to move on from the topic are making some people angry. But Dems naturally are fumbling the ball. They always do that. This is another fake news story, just like the previous story by the Wall Street Journal. Thank you, White House Communications Director Stephen Chung. Thank you, thank you. Even the podcaster dudes who are defending them are still catching heat, which is great to see. Yeah, it's not good content. At the end of the day, it just comes down to content to these people. People don't like pedos and pedo enablers. Incorrect. Republicans love pedophiles and pedophilia in the abstract. What they don't like is bad content. It's the nature of populism and fascism more specifically. Everything has to be part of a narrative. Everything has to be part of this, like, expression of conquest over enemies, you know? They despise the fact that this is, you know, you have this, like, for years now, one of the most credible and well-developed conspiracy theories in a long time. Very believable. Goes on for years and years, and now a sudden, abrupt, unsatisfying halt to it because, oh, turns out it implicates them. Not good content. Bad content. Guess we'll see how things play out when the House reopens in September.